Akira. I remember renting Akira at Blockbuster Video. I remember going in and wanting to get something else, like Fist of the North Star. But it was either Tank Police again or Battle Angel. But I remember picking up Akira. Akira is amazing. Every now and then, I go back and look at the behind the scenes of Akira. There's a video of it. You see how the animators went through it, but mostly the matte painters. That's something. That's really amazing. What's neat about it is that if you've ever tried to make an animated film nowadays, you open up a background in Photoshop. You open your file up and you just get the painting. You can scale it down or up to whatever you need, but it's an unlimited canvas. You can get in trouble with that. When you look at the making of Akira, those backgrounds are gigantic. They are giant matte painting backgrounds. They're not just the regular old cell background. They're detailed. Where was I? The matte paintings are amazing. The animation is amazing. Sometimes I go back and look at the pencil test. And it's a lot of lines. It's amazing that they held all of that to move at the same time. When you look at it, you understand there's a lot of moving parts in some of those scenes. There's really amazing draftsmanship. Then there's the manga. There are interviews on making the manga. And Otomo actually drew it and sent it off to his colorist in America. I don't know. They respect each other's work enough that they trusted whatever the man was going to do with it. I think it has some really pretty watercolors. But the detail in the manga is actually... The detail in the manga actually makes it into the anime. The giant skyscrapers falling, crashing with little bits of debris flying everywhere, broken glass. All those details are in Akira. People don't usually take the time to put all that stuff together because it's expensive. They do, but it has a style to it. Speaking of style, Akira, some more mid-90s, late 90s, further on, they did a redub. Somewhere around there, they spit shined it, polished it, and brought it out again with new voice work. I'm a fan of the old dub of Akira. Some of the dialogue is just stuck in your mind. It's just how it's supposed to be done. Where he goes, OUP brain, stuff like that. The story of Akira starts with high school boys who are, I don't know if I'd say troublemakers, but if you think of high school, if the word dropout comes up, I can't imagine. There's a moment in the movie where you see them walk through the school, and I can't imagine that group getting in trouble at the same school. But when the coach comes through and smacks each and every one of them in the face, they are the trouble at the school, and they get in trouble. It might be something that's cultural. It's an odd balance with that group because it seems like they still go to school, but they have the impression like they can't drop out at any moment. Like they can drop out at any moment. They care about finishing high school. On the other side, as soon as they're done, they are a biker gang that goes to a bar. And in the story, the gang sets out to drive one night, to ride their bikes. To ride their bikes. They encounter another gang, an older gang of clowns, and they have a fight. Not everybody makes it out of the fight, it seems, which makes you look at Kaneda's street gang a little differently. After the fight with the clowns, it's the famous Akira bike slide, and Tetsuo gets injured. An emergency helicopter comes down, but it's not for Tetsuo. It's from a little person who looks spooky. And that's most of the story. The other side of that is what's going on between the main characters, Tetsuo and Kaneda. Tetsuo gets hurt in that bike fight because he overdid it. He tried to keep up with who Kaneda was. They make a point of that. Kaneda starts the movie and says, "Don't touch my bike. You're not ready for anything like that." And Tetsuo is on his bike saying, "I can't wait to get one of these." My first thought was some kind of fraternity, fraternization, hazing, or Tetsuo is the young one. He seems like the youngest, smallest of the group, of that gang. It seems like it's a little group. They grew up together, and Tetsuo is still the youngest and the smallest. So they bully him a little bit. They pick on him just for fun. They shake him a little, but he's one of them. So the teasing seems like it may have wounded Tetsuo, because all of the teasing and whatnot may have created a wound within him. He overcompensates in what he does, trying to keep up with Kaneda. And it gets him injured. That's part of the story. that the relationship between Tetsuo and Kaneda looks like big brother, little brother. So what happens in this story is Tetsuo goes off to the hospital, but he's infected by whoever that little person was. Whatever sort of spooky power they had, and he isn't taken care of the same way there. So he gets out of hand. The gang sees that Tetsuo's injured, and they go looking for him. Tetsuo discovers that he has superpowers, and his mind isn't okay. So he goes back to the gang and says, "Guess what? I'm the strongest of the group now." He overcompensates and actually kills some of his friends. The wound is it's saying something. What was it? Kaneda and Tetsuo fight, but what's interesting is that Kaneda falls apart in this story. Tetsuo falls apart in this story, famously so. Part of what makes Akira interesting is the animation around Tetsuo falling apart. It's cancerous. It's an overgrowth. It spills out of him and picks up any and every bit of machine in its way. And further past the sci-fi of Akira, what actually happened to Tetsuo, they kind of explain it at the very last, right before the credits roll. It's something about who Akira was. Apparently Akira was a little person who went through the lab experiments and also couldn't hold on to what power was given to them and exploded. If they ever made it to that stage, I don't know. I believe they tried to harness the power of an amoeba, which is okay. An amoeba is a single-celled organism. It's a one-celled organism, and it moves like a glob of jelly, extending, reaching arms of globs. I imagine whatever the heck is venom. I remember whatever the heck. It's like Venom in Spider-Man. It should make sense that this happens to Tetsuo. His body turns into that. There's science behind it. I remember them saying something about cells. If an amoeba is one cell, then what is a cell? A single-celled organism. They got down into the science of how to split an atom. Splitting an atom created a nuclear explosion, which is what's in Akira. Neo Tokyo is recovering from the blast from Akira. So they're still talking about the bomb, or the whole movie is. And if we're talking about Japan and a bomb, it's Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, Akira is probably very much about World War II. If Akira is about World War II, that means that Japan is on one side and America is on another side. And if America is on the other side, odds are America might be the military force doing lab experiments and messing with Akira, creating a bomb and all of that damage. But what's interesting is that World War II looks a lot like because of the bomb, it looks a lot like military versus civilians. It seems like military fighting civilians, which means it's the United States government versus a couple of high school kids in Japan. This is probably part of why Akira is so popular. There's teenage angst in it. It's a high school movie. But to dial into it, it's the big brother, little brother stuff that's really at the center of it. Tetsuo versus Kaneda. Is Tetsuo trying to get even for being bullied by his big brother? And it really gets out of hand. But what does that mean exactly? What does it mean that Tetsuo is a little brother trying to get even with his big brother? I thought about this earlier. What is Akira trying to say? I think the whole story boils down to the idea of big brother versus little brother. What happens is big brother looks at little brother looks at big brother. He says, I can do that too. Big brother says, no, you can't. But big brother, a couple of years ago, couldn't do it either. Couldn't do it either. So little brother says, yes, I can. Because he desperately wants to be like the cool big brother. And they really made Kaneda cool. So little brother tries to do things who who knows, 1, 2, 3, 4 years, maybe more out of his range. It's just setting someone up for failure. But Big Brother generally has the attitude of the bully, saying that he's got to tag along. Which seems like I'm saying I'm almost creating this idea that he smiles and beats up his little brother so that it's not so hammy to have him along. But apparently, that can get out of hand. And now, little brother has to deal with the emotions of big brother trying to stay cool. Because big brother is struggling to stay cool if he's got little brother along. And little brother has to hold that and try hard. And it can be too much. And he overcompensates. And he ends up damaging. That's what happens in Akira. It's so interesting. The idea, after Tetsuo gets injured, his people go looking for him. He shows up. He shows up injured. The gang attacks him again. The clown gang attacks him again. And then his people show up to shoo the gang away. They care about Tetsuo. Kaneda is running through the sewers, trying to get to his little brother. Kaneda is fighting the government, running through sewers, karate, kicking, cops in the face, ending up in jail, exploding motorcycles, shooting lasers, trying to get to his little brother to say, "Are you okay?" It's a touching story. And the little brother has nothing but anger. And he's saying, "No, I'm not okay." It's a story about bullying. I think there's also something about it being a single-celled organism. Kaneda, Tetsuo. Tetsuo becomes a single-celled organism where he excludes others and tries to live on his own. And it looks horrible. He looks like damage. The Espers revive Akira to stop the growing mass. Reuniting with his friends, Akira creates a singularity, drawing Tetsuo and Kaneda into another dimension. The Espers teleport Shikishima to a safe distance as the singularity destroys Neo-Tokyo, and a mirror of Tokyo's previous destruction. And they agree to rescue Kaneda, knowing they will not return to this dimension as a result. In the singularity, Kaneda experiences Tetsuo's and the Esper's childhoods, including his and Tetsuo's friendship and the Esper's psychic training before Tokyo's destruction. the Espers return Kaneda to Neo Tokyo, informing him that Akira will take Tetsuo to safety, and that Ki is developing psychic powers. Onishi witnesses the birth of a universe, but is killed in his lab destruction. After consuming most of Neo Tokyo, the singularity disappears, and water floods the crater left in its place. Mourning Tetsuo's loss, Kaneda discovers that Ki and Kai have survived, and they ride off into the ruins while Shikishima watches the sunrise. At an unspecified plane of reality, Tetsuo introduces himself and triggers the creation of a universe, finally transcending the limitations of human existence. Once they go into that singularity, he gets his little brother back. The two of them go back to grade school. And they get to understand what their relationship was like. Then they go through the memories of Akira, who may not have had that, because what Akira had is still in the hospital. Okay, so in Akira, it's big brother versus little brother. But there's also an aspect of American military versus civilian, which is also what looks like big brother versus little brother. Kaneda, what happens is big brother bullies little brother, and little brother overcompensates. What does that mean? That it's big brother versus little brother. Because what happens in the war is that the American military attacks Japan and then is just wounded. There's a bomb. People are just wounded. Same thing happens with big brother versus little brother. Big brother attacks little brother, and little brother can't keep up. Little brother just gets wounded. What does that mean? Big brother versus little brother means that little brother gets wounded. One hits the other. Then the wounded one tries to strike back and overcompensates. And it's no good. So it's probably the quote, "An eye for an eye leaves everyone blind," which makes sense considering how the story ends in a bright, blinding light.